Hey, roll VT.
Live from the Talking Joe Studios. It's Talking Joe.
You seem normal.
Whoa, Nelly. We're back. We're live with another Talking Joe sketchbook special. We'll be talking to Chris, Diagnostic AT McLeod, about some of his collection that he's accumulated over the years, with some other special guests. So without further ado, let's roll the intro and then start meeting people.
Sketchbook, here's my sketchbook. I can show it to you if you wanna have a look. Sketchbook, here's my sketchbook. And now I will stop this song.
There we go. So indeed going to be a Talking Joe sketchbook special. I'm sorry, I've got a bit of a cold. So let's start meeting some of the people that will be appearing with us today. And I may or may not have had quite a lot of time on my hands this week. We'll find out if there's any clues about
See,
that.
not yet cold, it's Chris McLeod. He's rather rude and rather loud. He loves that G.I. Joe hovercraft. He'll take that whale and go. Soon may the co-host come to bring us comics and chat and fun. One day when the talking's done, we'll take our leave and go.
Absolute
There we
banger.
go.
Absolute banger. I love it.
It's Chris. Thanks for joining us, Chris. And we're going to be finding out all about your etchings that you bring the ladies back to show, which will be fascinating. And we will be joined by a host of special guests to have a look at them, discuss them. Who should I go first? Let's go.
I really want to talk Joe with you. It's a real American Tim. American Tim.
And there he is.
Good morning, Mark. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning.
Hello.
Sam. And who else has got a theme tune? It is
J.
It's G.I.J. J. Cordray. There he is.
Morning, everybody.
Yo.
How are you, Joe fans?
Morning. Good to see you. J.
Come on, Tim.
Good morning, Jay. Oh, I was thinking of
You missed the cue to sing.
my theme.
I'll listen to you. You got two.
You've got.
Na 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 na.
Here come the nitpicker,
Timmy Finn,
analytical prankster,
Timmy Finn,
picking holes in your coloring,
Timmy Finn,
still love G.I. Joe.
Timmy Finn.
No, he won't lie. Yes, he testify. Anyone can see there's some criticism. Anything that he don't know ain't a thing that's worth to know. Pull him back and let him go. Criticism, here come the nitpicker,
Timmy Finn,
analytical prankster,
Timmy Finn,
picking holes in your coloring,
Timmy Finn,
still love G.I. Joe.
Timmy Finn. There we go. Pull him back and
That's
watch
almost
him
up there
go.
with Action Figure Fiasco.
That's-
It's like number 2.
First time I've seen that.
Loot.
That's wonderful. Also,
I
I think we should just spend the rest of today's episode watching promos for me. So
it's
let's banter for a few seconds, and then Mark,
And then-
you'll roll the third one.
exactly. Let's go with another the next intro. Very special, new to the Talking Joe family. It's wonderful to have him on.
John Dummond is coming on the show today with Best Be Behaved.
There he is. It's a shorter one.
Unbelievable.
John,
Unbelievable. Thank you so much. You weren't expecting that.
I was not. I've been podcasting and doing stuff for a long. I've never had a musical intro. So thank you.
Never had your own theme tune before. Crikey.
I
Some
speak
people
at
too.
Speaking at non-comic book stuff, I usually use Rush's Working Man, but no, that was awesome.
How did you know all of my favorite songs, by the way, Mark? How do you do it?
I don't know. It's a talent.
It's funny listening
I was trying to
the
think
Robert
of
Atkins interview.
Thurmond rhymes as well. I was going Thurmond, jingle to be determined. And then randomly, just Snow by Informer comes up. Yeah, it's like John. Yes, let's.
Sammy, I go play I like you bum bum down. Sorry.
I appreciate that very much, Mark. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Welcome, John.
Thank you.
Welcome, John. Yeah, tell us a bit more about yourself, because you'll be new to the Talking Joe listenership and viewership. So, what's your GI Joe history, and particularly kind of on the comics and art side? What's the interest?
My GI Joe history starts in 1982 when I got Breaker, a straight arm Breaker. I subsequently sold all my Star Wars toys and got everything Joe I could get my hands on between 82 and 86. I got into high school, tried to discover girls better than I did, but I kept reading the comic. I started with issue 18. I saw it on the stands, and my mom, who's been a collector my entire life of stuff,
that was my same first issue.
Awesome. So yeah, I can remember she spent $20 on a copy of issue number 2 in 1984 or so, whenever it was. And so we went back. I had a subscription, and anyhow, 155 came and went. I was out. Fast forward to 2009, and my older son, who was 9 or 10 at the time, was drawing and was getting pretty good at it, and discovered that there was going to be a comic book convention here in Richmond, where we are. And the guests of honor were Larry Hama, Chris Claremont, Michael Golden.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, oh, wow, this is cool. I've never been to a comic book show.
Freaking all-star team.
Yeah. And it was, and they had, and by the way, Robert Atkins, Brian Shearer, the Tsunami Studios gang at the time out of Carolina, Billy Tucci. It was nuts. This, again, just totally overwhelmed. But when we met Larry, and suddenly I see people carrying around these books. What the hell is this? And it was sketchbooks. So we got super into it, got really excited. I got into some of the online Joe community and discovered, I don't know if you guys know Shane Simic. He went by Nuke Simic for a long time. Shane has had this amazing sketch collection for many, many years, and kind of got me turned on to it. Went to Baltimore Comic-Con in 2010, and it's all been downhill from there. Started my sketchbook, discovered that, since my son was a really, really bright kid and funny, and took a portfolio with him everywhere, artists would talk to him, and eventually we started, making friendships with artists. And so I've gotten to be fairly close with several of the Joe creators of the last 10 years. Also, because I was older and mature and kind of knew what I was talking about, the promoter here in Richmond made me the handler, for lack of a better word, for people. So I have lost count of the number of times I've had meals with Larry, Herb Trimpe, rest in peace, Steve Rude, Bob Camp. Met a lot of people over the years, and so it's amazing. It's been a whole nother thing. And of course, I'm a human resources practitioner by trade, and most people in HR, the comic book people, get really excited because of all the people I've gotten to know, and through podcasting, other things. I've gotten to be friends with Tom King. He killed me in Batman a while back. I know you guys covered it on the show. Shannon Gallant, who's become a very good friend over the years. Shannon made Thurman's Ice Cream, the Blue Ninja truck. So
amazing.
I'm in Real American Hero. My son and I are actually in 180, one of the scenes in San Diego. And man, it's nuts. Absolutely
John,
insane.
Did you just give yourself a G.I. Joe style code name? Handler?
Oh, absolutely. Works for me.
Or maybe better, kid gloves.
When you're working with Larry, sometimes you need that.
See, because I was thinking, as we've been talking on the podcast before about the G.I. Joe HR team, which seems to be a disaster because they're letting the entire team go on leave all at the same time, leaving just a couple of people behind at the pit while they go and invade Springfield over on their holiday with access to them, weaponry, machinery. So I think they need some help there. And I was wondering what code names GI Joe HR team might have. Some of my thoughts were permanent record, head count, manpower, maybe even whistleblower. The one.
As long as it's not personnel, we're okay.
How about double digit? That's pretty close to double blast.
Very good. And John, just before you
went for a second.
Just before we went online, you were telling me about the ultimatum you had about your GI Joe collecting. Could you just tell us about that?
Yeah. So after that convention in 2009, I just jumped right back in full bore. Started collecting the comics again and catching up on all the things I'd missed in the since 155 was 94. So I had 15 years to catch up on, and
wow,
was collecting, started collecting, reading all the comics, dabbling in some of the figures again. And my wife basically said, look, you pick one thing, art, comics, figures. And I said, well, I really like the sketchbook from the standpoint it's personalized. It's mine, right? I own a unique piece of something to a toy line and to a property that's, it's the most precious thing to me. So I said, okay, art. And of course, she wasn't real thrilled with that at the end of the day because I get stuff that I post on the walls, but it's flat and I can hide it too.
Exactly. You can fit a heck of a lot of stuff in a flat file.
That's right. That's right.
He's put a lot of thought into this.
Yeah, and it's nice as well that the artists give them all away for free as well. So you never have
to. When you were given the option of one thing, you should have said stuff, and that would have covered everything.
Yeah. She was clear about pick one thing in the property, right? So, 'cause she saw these stuff all piling up.
So does that
we'll go with art?
Does that mean you are not getting each new issue? Do you read them online? Are you less into the story of the comics right now?
I have not read regularly in quite a while. I kind of yeah. Sorry.
Well, I don't buy most of the classified figures, so
yeah, I don't either. I bought a handful that I liked. During COVID, I've started looking at toys again because I've been able to conventions and get art. So it's a trade-off. Got to keep something going.
One category of stuff.
Yeah, that's right. That's been married 21 years. I can kind of negotiate a bit. And then my HR background, I was a negotiator, so that's what I did.
What if that category changed?
I think comics sits inside the art box.
That's right. That's right.
Kid Gloves, are you a vehicle driver and your tank or plane is called the Negotiator?
That sounds good.
It has to do so. Maybe it's got like treads that move up and down, and it negotiates rough terrain.
And I can play Rush's Kid Gloves while I'm working. That's even better.
Mm-hmm. This does get better and better. Jay, I think we're figuring out what we'll be drawing for the Patreon rewards. All the HR Joes back at the pit that Mark's been naming.
There was a good one.
We've got another one in the ring here.
I can't remember what it was now.
Workforce.
Cool.
Let's look at some
workforce sounds like workforce sounds like me. It sounds like full workforce. It feels like what it is like all the time.
Yeah. But we were gathered here for a reason, my friends, and that was to look at some art. So let's get into it. Here we go. So, Chris, you want to tee us off about the context of your collection before we get onto the first piece? Or?
Yeah, so obviously this has been dropped on me while I'm living in the United States. So this is all stuff like that I had at hand, from the last few years, like the last, I'd say, I don't know, 4 or 5 years being in the United States, kind of, living here for like that period of time. So I've got lots of stuff, at home in the United Kingdom. Sorry, Phoebe do you want to be involved? Do you want to get on? No, she's good. So like, I've been going to like loads of conventions since I've been here. We tend to go to a lot of Ohio conventions as well because we've got friends out there like Roma Collectibles and Aaron who puts on like shows like the Ohio Toy Show and all those kind of shows. So we tend to get quite a lot of opportunities to kind of, go to these conventions and pick up some amazing artwork. And another one of my favorite cons in the United States, possibly my favorite con going, is Assembly Required. It's run by Brian Sauer, who does the art for a lot of the merchandise that's sold there, but like, prints and t-shirts and all sorts of cool stuff that he puts on. But the show is just, it's a small show. It's like quite intimate, but it's like, loads of people like we're really close friends with. And I have to admit, like, it's definitely, I look forward to that more than any show, going to any show. I thought JoeCon was always fun. Like that was always a real, like, loads of fun, but it was so expensive. And like, I'm not like you, John. Unfortunately, I don't pick one thing. It's like anything with a GI Joe badge on it or Action Force brand on it. It's like, it's probably going to be bought. So in that sense,
face on the side.
Yeah, exactly. If Flint's on it, I'm buying it. Yeah. So, or if Lightfoot's on it, I'm buying it. So,
oh, that's right.
Yeah, a bit of a Lightfoot fan. But the only reason I'm a Lightfoot fan is because I randomly saw a Nerf Terror Scout in Toys R Us once and thought that would make a really cool mine detector drone for Lightfoot, and so I made a cosplay out of it and ended up, that was it. So anyway, Assembly Required, amazing show. Brian Sauer runs it, and he does our graphics as well for the Full Force. So if you ever see a weekly or a burst or comics burst, news burst, all those beautiful panel graphics, all done by Brian Sauer. He's an absolute genius. And I wanted to start off by looking at a few prints from Assembly Required. There'll be a little bit of a running theme here because I'm a big Tiger Force fan. I love, like, the kind of Air Force, the G.I. Joe and Cobra Air Force. So, like, there's a lot of kind of like plane-based stuff in here, but there's also on top of that, you'll see another character that might pop up a few times. But if we start with the Assembly Required, the first print for that one, Mark, and that is this beauty that Brian Sauer put together. And it's effectively the characters from the Sunbow cartoon in their Tiger Force gear that obviously never happened in the Sunbow cartoon. But it was this was the theme of this particular Assembly Required that year. And so we all went in on our Tiger Force gear. I think I dressed up as Tiger Force Hit and Run. My wife Kate was Outback, and the rest of the finest, they were in, like, random different Tiger Force cosplay. So it was like an amazing convention for that. But this print is just gorgeous, and again, completely done by Brian from scratch. Stunning piece of work, and you've got the tiger rat up there flying overhead as well, just to like, just to add to that. But you've got like Tripwire, you've got Frostbite, Roadblock, Lifeline, Bazooka, Duke, Recondo, or Wild Bill if you're in the United Kingdom, Dusty, and Flint. So those are the ones that I think, off the top of my head, were in the Sunbow cartoon, and those are the ones that he decided to use for this particular print. And I just think it's beautiful.
Yeah, it looks great, and I love the fact that there's Bazooka up front as well as being the main character featured in the image.
I mean, he was pretty prominent, and we will get to sketches as well, by the way, guys. It's just I wanted to show off like a bunch of art effectively. But yeah, I love the fact that Bazooka's forefront as well, because it's like he was very, very like prominent in the Sunbow cartoon. So I think that's why he's kind of up front more so than a lot of the others. I mean, Roadblock you could have had there too, Duke obviously, but yeah, you're right. Bazooka was like the heart and soul of Sunbow in a weird way.
Very good. It's great.
Bazooka and Alpine got a lot of airtime.
In fact, you could have thrown Alpine in there because he was later. He was done later in Tiger Force, wasn't he? I know it would have been a different design, and you'd have had to kind of like he would have had to really, I suppose, Sunbow up that kind of more modern short wearing kind of design. But like, yeah, I still think this is amazing. Yeah,
cool.
Right then,
click on to the next one.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Now these next two, actually, I mean, if you don't have to have both of them up, but you can flip between the two of them. These are very similar kind of pieces. You've got the basically the Night Boomer, aka the repainted Sky Striker from Night Force, and you've got the Tiger Rat, which is the repainted Rattler from Cobra to GI Joe. So again, I love these ones. They're very much like. It's not like Tim will know the kind of style, but I'm not talking. It's not like propaganda posters, but it's got that kind of vibe, hasn't it, Tim? What's the actual art style? I can't think off the top of my head.
Russian constructivist.
Okay, we'll go with that. This is the Russian constructivist style,
but also like Chinese propaganda posters.
Yeah, it's definitely got that kind of vibe to it, and I just love what he does with these prints. And these happen like more or less every assembly required. There'll always be like a new kind of like aerial, poster with the different the different planes on it, related to the theme of the show that year. So obviously we had the Night Boomer, but I think the Night Boomer. I think it was a Night Force. Yeah, it was Night Force theme. I think it was the last one we did, actually. And again, I went as Night Force Lightfoot, and Kate went as Night Force Outback, which is amazing. So we cosplay together. Couples that cosplay together stay together. So yeah, and again, Brian Sauer just absolutely. His work is so clean and so crisp and so beautifully colored as well. Like there's just some real vibrancy about everything he does. And if you flip back to the Night Boomer, you're talking about a black, just an all black pretty much plane, but he does so much with it. He's almost given it Outback t-shirt sleeves, if you know what I'm talking about, from the original Outback Night Force figure. But like there's just so much like going on there. There's so much detail, even though it is just a black piece of work, but like and obviously the background makes a lot of difference, changing the colors up to make it pop off the page. But I love those prints so much. I think they're gorgeous.
Yeah, great stuff.
Cool.
Let's flick on.
Right, now moving on then, and we get to my first sketch, and this was a very personal one because Jim Griffith, who I grew up with as a kid, like we were friends in school, really nice, really wonderful guy. We ended up kind of like, we basically, it was really interesting. Like we kind of, through school, you know how it is, like you kind of like, you tend to kind of drift apart a little bit, even during like, like a different, maybe you go into high school and you're in different classes and you end up kind of drifting apart a little bit. And that kind of happened a little bit. We were good friends, and then we kind of split up a little bit in that sense. And then not split up. I'm saying like we were a couple, but you know what I mean. And then we kind of like, we ended up getting kind of back friends again when I think it was like a couple of years into high school. And I kind of found out that he was an Action Force and G.I. Joe collector. And I went around his house for something else completely. I think it was, I was on my bike, so it was way back in the day. So I cycled over to his, from my little village, Munsley, to his little village in, I think, Thorpe Market. And yeah, again, these probably words mean nothing to anybody, probably not even Mark, because we're talking Norfolk right now. We're talking like, in the wilds of the United Kingdom country and beach side. So I tend
to think of the UK as like England as being sort of fairly straight up and down, and I forget that there's this other sort of
the little blob on the right. Out. Yeah. I always thought of the UK looking like it looks like a witch on a broomstick, and her arse would be Norfolk. That's how I see it. So apologies, I forgot that we're live now, and I should censor myself. But this particular,
Chris,
so anyway,
it classy.
Yeah, well, you know me. So we kind of get back together again in terms of like the friendship kind of thing. And I go around his house, and he says, "Oh yeah, I'm a big Action Force kind of fan." Pulls out a box of all these figures, and in there was Lady J and a couple of others. I had most of them that he had, apart from this Lady J. I'd never seen Lady J ever as a kid. So I was like really excited, and I'm kind of playing with it, and I was like, "This is amazing." And he says, "Tell you what, you can have her." And the reason I was going around there is because he had some old Battle Action Force annuals, and so I borrowed them off him, never gave them back, so they're mine now. But he basically said, "You keep them, keep the Lady J. I'm kind of getting out of it now." So that's how I ended up with these. And then years. It was that one actually. It was that one and the Tiger Force cover annual, the G.I. Joe. I think it was just a G.I. Joe annual from the UK, but it was a Tiger Force cover. And so I borrowed those off them, stole them. And anyway, years down the line, Jim was an amazing artist. I knew that when I was a kid. We knew he was a great artist. And he does these amazing, beautiful dog, people's dogs. Like if they'll send him pictures of their dogs, and he'll do portraits for them, and they're gorgeous. We actually got him to do. I got him to do a commission as a present for Kate of our 2 dogs, Max and Phoebe, which I should have sent to you so you could post that up, Mark. Sorry, but anyway, he basically out of the blue one day says, "I've just been listening to the podcast, and I'm really into it. And you guys are talking about Action Force and G.I. Joe, and it's really fun, and I can't believe it, and it's bringing back all these memories, and like it's really cool to hear your voice on there." And I was like, wow, this is amazing. And he just did this sketch for me. He just drew this randomly, and you can see it's on like a bit of scrap paper as well, and then sent it on and said that I just was messing about. And we were talking about the war correspondence story from one of the Action Force comics. I think one of the Action Force monthly comics, where Snake Eyes basically gets unmasked by Ripper, and he thought it'd be funny to do me getting unmasked by Ripper in this kind of like fight, but he gave me this ridiculous knife. I don't know why. It's amazing, but it's like almost like we've been in this fight, and he's really done a job on me, Ripper, and he's pulling the mask off. And I just when he sent it to me, I was just like, oh my God, that is like, it's spot on. Like, it's beautiful. Like, I love what he's done with Ripper. Like, he's a little bit kind of, a bit scrawnier, and he's got like, all of the signposts there, the hair, the shades, the kind of the dog tags, the vest and everything, kind of almost like a belly shirt kind of thing. And it just looks amazing. And what he kind of made me Snake Eyes, which I thought was really cute. But having like the mask being this very like material, kind of almost like spandex mask with this heavy visor stuck on it, I just thought was really cool. And and again, like just amazing piece of work.
Where are we?
Yeah, there you go. There's the war correspondence. Great. Yeah. So this reporter's kind of told to go and take pictures of this Action Force facility.
Shocked.
And he didn't realize, but he's got this one shot of Snake Eyes with his mask off, and you don't see it in the issue, which is great. You just see the back of his head, and he kind of got little bumps on it with like tufts of hair sticking out. They really made him like some sort of Elephant Man vibe going on. But I thought that was great. Anyway, and that's the first sketch of the day, should we say? And again, just gorgeous work from Jim.
Excellent.
Style looks like Adam Polina.
Oh right, yeah. He's definitely with Jim. He's got a very unique style. This is another one of his actually. This is Snow Job, obviously. But this, could you zoom in on this a little bit, Mark? Because this is some real beautiful detailing on this. Like for one thing, I didn't know he'd done this, and I went around his house to pick up that sketch, that one that he'd just scribbled down. The Ripper and Snake Eyes, me as Snake Eyes. I just went around his house when we were back in the UK to kind of reconnect and hang out and everything. And he lives in Leicester, so quite a drive from where I am. So I go around his house and he pulls out all these sketches, and this one came up, and I'm like, holy crap, this is absolutely gorgeous. And one of the main things I loved about it was the fact that he just did not skimp on the snow detailing. So like as he's hitting the snow with the skis on that angle, all of it just like all those little bits of snow just like floating up in front of him. It's just absolutely stunning work. And there's so much like dynamic movement in this, and you just feel every little muscle tensing up as he's doing it. Like you almost like put yourself in that position in a sense. I just think it's absolutely gorgeous, and one of my favorite pieces that he's done.
And it's a really sort of thoughtful consideration, and potentially a brave artistic consideration that you're losing his feet almost entirely, and his ski boots entirely in that snow, and the bottom of his sticks as well, and you've just got the skis sort of coming out of that snow, and that white space just kind of letting your own interpretation sort of fill in the blanks as to what's happening. It's a great effect that he's got that going on there.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's absolutely stunning, and just everything about it. Like, and when I've got the piece obviously at hand, and it's up close and personal. There's just so many, just beautiful decisions he made, in terms of the actual artwork, and he's just got this real knack and this real style and this real quality that he is a professional artist, not a professional Joe artist, but he went through a little period after listening to the podcast of doing loads and loads of G.I. Joe sketches, and I would share them on the Full Force page, and he would be really like excited because people were seeing stuff like that, and usually he does like completely different things. So this was like it was like almost like an exercise for him to kind of try and go back and do some G.I. Joe and Action Force stuff. And I just remember seeing this and going, dude, it's one of the best pieces of snow job art I've ever seen in my life. Like, it's just gorgeous.
His figure work is really nice. And those hands are great. They look perfect, especially close up.
Yeah, I find that in a lot of artwork, even like the really good stuff, is the hands can sometimes stand out a little bit as like, it's really difficult to get them right. And he just does some just really subtle work with them. Like the one his left hand holding the stick out is just, he's just gone simple with it. It's like thumb over the top. Yeah. You can't see most of it, and it's just like some really nice, really well thought out shading to kind of get the hand right. And I don't think he doesn't use any reference as well. Like, this is just off the top of his head. So this is why he's like a genius to me. Like Jim, he's just incredible.
A less thoughtful artist might have made it like something like this.
Yes, exactly. Showing more fingers, showing he kind of does a lot. He does some really good work there of like hiding things you don't need to see, and making it more effective. Yeah, big time. But yeah, I mean, just zooming on his left wrist, for example, his left forearm, you've got like so many like intricate folds and lines, but it's all. It doesn't look random. Like when I've tried drawing, because I can draw a little bit, but not like this. And when it comes to things like like creases and folds, it's easy to make that just look like a mess of random crap that doesn't make sense. If he does it in such a way that actually
field lines,
yes, exactly, just put lines in it. Just put lines in it, and it's done. It's just not. And again, like you look everywhere on that costume suit, and it just looks great. I bloody love it. Yeah. I'm a big fan of this piece. I'm not sure if you've noticed or not.
Very good. Cool. Shall I click on? Here we go.
Absolutely. Yeah, so this, I think you all know the artists involved here, Gallant and Shearer. So you've got Gallant doing the, doing the artwork basically, and Shearer doing the inks. And this was a piece that managed to get hold of off Brian. I think during his Kickstarter for his sketchbook, which is really cool as well. Actually, there's some really nice pieces in there. Brian has got this really cool style, and we'll see more from him a little bit later on. But thanks, Mark. I appreciate you getting the original pieces with the not the original, the color piece. Yeah. The black and white, obviously, just it was really cool. And I desperately wanted a Robo Skull page that he'd worked on, because the Robo Skull obviously came up quite a lot. And I said, because obviously Kate and I, that's something that connects us quite solidly as a couple. Like Kate made from scratch a 12-inch scale Robo Skull, which is one of the most incredible things I've ever seen.
Amazing.
And it's actually in my possession now, so I stole that. That's mine now. And because of that, we
stole it from your wife.
I'll put it this way: if anything ever goes wrong, she'll never see that again. I'm kidding. But yeah, it's just a wonderful piece of work. She's a very talented human being, like just incredible talent. And when I
saw that in Roll Call in person, it was it blew my mind.
That's why it's in my possession, because it was too difficult to take back. Like she traveled with it to the UK for Roll Call, and then was I ain't taking this back. So good. That's in my possession in the United Kingdom. That's in my Indiana Jones style warehouse lockup with the Ark of the Covenant and some other things.
Good gravy.
But yeah, the other connection, obviously, with this particular page is that Kate does Bomb Strike cosplay, and it's incredible as well. And I thought, well, if I can't get Robo Skull, if you've got a Bomb Strike page, that'd be great. And this one's brilliant because it's them falling down the lift shaft and her like desperately trying to get a carabiner hooked up and hook it over a little corner thing as they're falling. So the classic superhero falling maneuver. But yeah, I really like this page, and it's really beautifully done. It's such a unique page as well. Like the panels are all over the place, and you've got the rope in the background, which I thought was like a really cool way of like tying it all together
with rope. Yeah.
Let's see the color version of that one again, Mark.
Yep.
Man, look at that top panel with the close-up of the hands clicking that I don't know, that clasp. I'm not sure what they're called.
Carabiner.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. When the colors went in there, it really added a lot too. I mean, this is a great page.
It's wicked, isn't it? Yeah. And again, I suppose this is a good point to make of colorists also being very, very important to the process as well. Like, it's not just about the line art. It's not just about the inking, and then it's not just about the color. It's like all of it kind of coming together. And it's interesting as well how one can damage everything, like the whole process. Like, poorly colored work can really make beautiful line art like a mess. So yeah,
we talked about
hold on, I'm just going to mute him. but yeah, it's a great page, and there's so much going on that I think the color version, looking at it particularly at this scale, helps to kind of be able to differentiate the components of what is happening. I think in person it's easier to take it in with the eye, but because there's a lot going on the page, but it's a great layout, and I think because Gallant's art isn't necessarily he doesn't show off with his art in a lot of in a lot of the interiors. It is and he does more of that, those splashier showy off bits when he was doing commissions and that kind of thing, which are amazing. But the interiors are often quite pared back and all about the storytelling, and they look amazing, but they aren't show offy, if that makes sense. So a lot of the pages, they are telling the story, and they don't look as amazing as single page collectibles always. But this one is great. What's going on? There's just the layout, the composition, going on, the rope tying it all together, just the action. It's a great page.
I think something that's really great with Shannon too. I don't know if you guys own any of Shannon's pages, but for the longest time he worked 8.5 by 11.
Yeah.
So you get he would pencil it that size, get it to Brian. Brian blows it up, puts it on the more regular sized comic page. It's interesting. I've seen Shannon go from 8.5 to 11 to like a 9 by 14 when he did the $6 Million Man Joe book, and then I think he's back to the smaller pages now. But
do you have any of his stuff, John?
I have quite a bit of his stuff. Yeah.
Do you have? What about the 8.5 by 11 ones?
Yeah, I've got quite a few of those.
Yeah.
I think one of the reasons I'm here is hopefully I'll get to share down the road, and I'll be happy
for sure
to share that stuff. And I've got quite a bit of his stuff in my collection.
Awesome.
Yeah, I've got
and a lot of Brian's stuff too.
I've got a couple of Brian Shearer inked pages, quite a few of Gary Erskine inked pages, and I think just one Gallant pencils, and that was actually a regular Bristol board comic book page size. So an era.
I thought for a second there you just had one of his pencils.
So it must have been. So the one I've got must have been from
authenticity with that pencil.
It must have been from the window of time that he was drawing at a slightly larger scale. But some artists do sell their pencils or include it as part of their art. So here's the pencil that drew that issue, kind of thing. I think
Can you sign it with that pencil?
Terry Moore sells his, or she
thought.
Could you sign that pencil with the same pencil and then put it in with the? If you can do that, then yeah, I'm all about it. That's
then
amazing.
You're a magician.
Or you just go snap. There you go. Chewing gum. Here's your pencil, idiot. Cool. Right. Do you want to move on to the next one, which is this is one of my faves in my collection. Actually, this is again, you're probably aware I'm a big European exclusive Tiger Force fan. Outback is just one of those characters as well. Like, he's just a brilliant character. When he's not wearing a kitty shirt, when he's just wearing his survival shirt in either white or / dark grey and green. So again, that's a deep cut for any Night Force aficionados of the vintage style there. But anyway, this particular piece from Brian, this was at Granite Comic Con in Manchester. Anyway, it's Granite Comic Con in Manchester, but not the United Kingdom one. And we went out to this con. It kind of turned into an unofficial G.I. Joe convention. It's not usually that way, but like, it had Larry Hama was there, obviously Brian, Adam Riches, Buzz Dixon. It had a bunch of random, G.I. Joe affiliated people. And so we go there with helped out Boss Fight as well, who we're affiliated with, who Kate works for. And we ended up kind of like being right next to Brian and Buzz Dixon and Adam. So I go over to Brian and we're chatting away, and I said, "Is there any chance I could get a commission? Do you have any time to do that?" And he's like, "Yeah, absolutely." So I was like, "Awesome." Tiger Force Outback, surprise me. And he's like, "Okay." So he didn't do like the cut. I don't know what I was expecting, to be honest. I know he had to get a reference up initially to see what the design was like. But then I come back a few hours later and this is here. And I was just like, oh my goodness. So the way he's done him is just in Brian's very, unique style. And also just Copic marker colors as well, just unbelievably done in just a few hours time as well. Like, he sketched that out, colored it, and boom, there you go. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to be framing this one. I haven't yet, but it's just absolutely gorgeous work. I love just the kind of like, again, like there's this like scratches across the page to give it this like kind of like some urgency going on. He's grabbing his bag, like obviously something's happening. And in my head, the story, he never said anything about what it was actually happening, but in my head, there's a story of like, he's set up for camp, and then all of a sudden he's like, there's either a giant friggin' bear in the vicinity or some sort of cobra like team are nearby, and he's grabbing his bag quickly to throw it on. He's grabbed his knife because obviously he doesn't have time he's not maybe near his rifle or whatever, and he's just about to like pounce or like about to fight or get involved in some sort of action. I'd like to think it's a bear and that he wants to like give it a chance before having to go close quarters combat with it. Rather than shoot it, he's going to get his knife and he's going to kill it if necessary. Something along those lines.
He's not going to put a satchel full of explosives around its neck like Spear.
Well, what's it? Could be. Look at this satchel he's got.
Could be.
I was thinking that satchel. I was thinking that satchel was just full of honey. And that actually,
he says, "You're not getting it, Bear."
No, he's going to throw it one way. He's going to throw it like
he's going to go the other way.
Genius. Anyway, yeah, that's But Brian, I love that piece as well. There's just so much to love about it, and it's just really cool. And yeah, great stuff.
And it makes a reason for him having his orange tiger t-shirt, that survival is all about survival, going out, lasting as long as you can. The tiger t-shirt is just full on bear fighting mode.
Exactly. Like, I'm a tiger, basically. Yeah.
And I got a sketch done by Brian as well of Scarlett at Rollout Roll Call, and Roll Call can be a little bit toy centric. They get amazing comic book guests, but there's more people there for the toys than the art, I would say. So he was able to take a lot of time doing mine, and I don't know how quickly he can work versus how long he takes when he's not under pressure. But he spent a long time on mine, several hours, just like with yours, and he's very methodical and precise and putting he's shared videos of this, I think, on Instagram and stuff. He'll
Yeah.
put the layers down of of grey tones and stuff underneath the colors, so that when he puts then color over the top, it sort of really has that gradient of color coming through and stuff. John, I imagine you've probably got a few things from Brian as well.
Oh, I've spent quite a bit of time with Brian, and I love the fact that Chris, you say just, hey, go for it. You know, I found in my experiences, the more I let the artist go crazy or want to, like help work with them to figure out the character, what costumes are going to be. After that, all bets are off. You're the creative part. I just go for it.
I'm the ideas man. You're the creative part.
That's right.
I must admit, like I find it's like a dialogue that you have with each individual artist, because obviously some artists prefer a little bit more structure, especially if they're working in that kind of really speed oriented kind of like environment, like a con. But you're right, like some of them will just be like, they in fact, I think what happened was Brian said, do you want anything specific, or do you want me to just go crazy with it? So if they offer that, then they can do it, and it's like, go crazy, just surprise me. That's totally cool. So it's definitely something that I would contemplate after having a dialogue with them. Like, what would they prefer to do? I always give them that option going in. But you're right. Like the more creative that they're going to get with it, the better the outcome. So yeah. Okay, cool. Right. So next up, again, we're going to get more Outback. Oh, look, there I am. And Kate. There's Kate as Outback, and there's me as Tiger Force Hit and Run. Do you like that?
It's very good.
Nice.
And Marujo.
I'd throw in a bit of flavour there for you.
That looks like you just stepped off the movie set, Chris. I mean, that's
we just finished filming the most ridiculous movie of all time. That was Joe Fest, I believe.
Cool.
Yeah.
Where was that at?
That was in Georgia, in Augusta, I believe, and it was the 2018 show. Yeah, so we're I think 2018 or 2019, whatever the last one.
Anchor.
What did you call me?
I said, look at that. I said, look at that anchor.
Yes, that is a cracking cosplay as well. The shipwreck one's wicked, isn't it?
Yeah, that hook.
Knock somebody in the head with that.
Crazy.
Yeah, that's a really, it was a Marujo, isn't it? I think his name in the South American Tiger Force. But yeah, really, really cool cosplay. That the Finest are amazing. I love those guys. They're so good. They do amazing stuff. And then I wear stupid tiger based and a blue shirt. I'll tell you what though, when I found that bright orange helmet in a sports kind of place, and I'm like, I can do a Tiger Force Hit and Run with that. I just put some black stickers on it, and it's got the stripes on it and everything on the back. I cut like black tape basically into tiger stripes and then laid them on, and it works perfectly. Like they're still on there, like nice and tight. And when I saw that, I'm like, that's what I do. I find the hardest thing the hardest thing to kind of create or to find in the actual costume, and I go, there you go. It's half the work's done, so I might as well do the rest of it. Yeah. So there you go. That's me. Okay, so Outback now. This is Tristan Alexander Kelly. Now he was at an Ohio show, the Ohio toy show that Aaron from Roma Collectibles puts on. An amazing show for toys, for comics, for everything. It's really good and super popular as well. They get friggin' loads of people to that. Like it's been kind of up until COVID. They were hitting record numbers that thousands of people were turning up over the weekend. So it's turned into a really big show, and he will have to expand and get a bigger place now. But while I was here at this show, Tristan Alexander Kelly, Nicholas Wentland, and the Broken Arrow crew were doing a special cover, that Roma Collectibles exclusive cover for A Real American Hero, which was the Scarlet versus Storm Shadow cover, with like Ninja Force Scarlet and Ninja Viper, and they did lots of different versions of this cover. And while they were there, I was sifting through all of their really cool artwork and speaking to Tristan and Nicholas. Nicholas does the colors on the stuff, and Tristan does the lines and inks, I believe. And it was just like looking at all this stuff. I was like, this is amazing. I bought every print they had. They had 3 different versions of Tunnel Rat, the same print, but then obviously him in Night Force and him in Tiger Force and him in Sonic Fighters and so on and so forth. They had this one with Outback, and they had him in multiple different versions. And I bought all of those. I bought all of the, everything they had. I basically just went, yep, I'll have one of each. Thank you very much. And they were just gorgeous pieces. Now, this is the Tiger Force Outback print that I picked up off them, which again is really cool. Again with a knife, like it's just amazing. Like he's definitely for me more synonymous with a random curved flat than he is with a knife. And it's just funny that they both versions have given him the knife, holding it in similar ways as well, may I add. But yeah, this is, again, I thought it was really cool. And they offered me the original. And so Tristan sent it to me in the post after the fact with some extras to give away on the show, extra prints. So big shout out to Tristan. Does, again, beautiful artwork. And this is another kind of really cool sketch that I'm happy to say I have the original of. This is the actual original piece as well, like the first kind of, on like the kind of hard card. It's really, really awesome. So yeah, that's Outback. Again,
the artist didn't sign it.
No, I don't. I think I'll have to look at it again. I think it might be on there somewhere in a really hidden way. I can't see from that shot, but yeah. Even if he hasn't done, I know it was him. I was there when he was doing some other stuff as well, and yeah, he's a great artist. He's done all sorts of really cool stuff, and again, yeah, Nicholas Wentland did the colors on this as well. So yeah,
is the signature right under his leg, right by his knee?
Oh yes, there it is. Yeah. TAK, okay. I think it is. Yeah, like tag.
But it's not on the original art there. It's not in the same place.
Interesting.
Maybe they were wondering if there was going to be type, and it's like, well, we can move the signature around in the color version if we might have like a burst here or some words here.
Very possibly, yeah. Or he might have just forgotten completely to just put his name on it, and then yeah. But yeah, it's so cool, and yeah, you can kind of almost see the process there as well going on with some of the different lines and the different like the inks over the kind of blue pencils. It's really cool.
Can you zoom back into the middle? Because so there's a spray. There's a muzzle.
Oh yeah,
muzzle flash spray that didn't get inked and didn't get colored. Maybe because that would block his chest, which is the main part of his costume that we associate with him.
Yeah, it was in there originally. Though, look. Yeah, so there's actually a few versions of this as well. Like I said, there's the Night Force and the regular white T-shirt version as well. So and I bought all those too. But I just wanted to show the Tiger Force one, seeing it was like the theme of today's sketch.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah. So that's Tristan, Alexander Kelly, and Nicholas Wentland for Outback. And moving on, and you'll be familiar with the massive signature on this one, guys. And again, this is from Codename Iowa, Assembly Required. Again, Brian Sauer's amazing show he puts on. Now, Ron Wagner is a very good friend of Assembly Required, and because he's in the Ohio area, and this show is just great. And Ron is so funny and so lovely, and we've spent a lot of time together being like Assembly Requireds now, and I just had to. This is a print that he did for the show, so I bought this off him. But he has actually done a number of pieces for myself and Kate while we've been there and previous shows, and I'll get to that one in a sec. But just coming back to this one, this is just gorgeous of hit and run. And what's really cool about this is that it's very it's like a hint of hit and run, because there's so much like shadow and darkness and it's just so really intriguing and almost like very, I don't know, very Rogue Trooper, very I don't know, like just very dark and ominous, and yeah, just really cool, I thought.
Ron Wagner is one of those artists who I feel like Joe fans, certainly with me, in my mind, there is like quintessential Ron Wagner, which is like how he draws around 1987.
Yeah.
And then I sort of forget that he did Punisher and some Fourth World stuff. He did a Superman annual at DC. He did 3 issues of Excalibur, which I didn't discover until a year ago when I was in the basement of my comic book shop.
Amazing.
And we had all 3 of them, and I thought, oh, I should take these home and read them. And you know, it's like, well, there's G.I. Joe and there's Nth Man, and then I feel like with some Joe fans, and maybe because they're less into the comics than the toys or what have you, and it does a little disservice to a Ron Wagner, because when he was drawing Joe, he'd only been a professional for, you know, like 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
And some of his Joe work, either it's when the book was running bi-weekly, or you know, that book was always was having deadline troubles, and so some of his issues he's drawing breakdowns, and other artists are inking finishes, and his style has changed a little bit over time, but he was always very good. But he's gotten much better, and there is so much confidence in this drawing and in this color treatment, and it's really interesting to look at that, like, one issue of G.I. Joe he did, what was it, around like 2013, and part of the annual, because it looks like him, sort of what we think of as like the platonic ideal of Ron Wagner G.I. Joe art around 1987, but it also doesn't look like him, because his work has matured. Not right now while we're doing the live stream, but anyone who's watching this later, I encourage you to go to his website, which is rjwagner.com, and look at his other work, his sketches, his paintings,
murals. His work is all over Des Moines. So when we go to the show, we go to like this place called Zombie Burger, and all on the wall, you've got these like amazing pieces of like art of zombies coming out of the wall with like pieces of real wood like attached to it to make it look like it's artwork on the wall, but then the wood's kind of put on top of it to make it look kind of cool and funky. But that whole piece of art is by Ron Wagner. We're in there like in the line, like waiting to go in to be served, to be seated. And I'm looking at this piece of art and said, that is amazing. And I look to the bottom, and my eye just wanders to the bottom right of the picture, and there, in massive white, like, you know, script, is his signature. And I'm like, no. But it's like that all over Des Moines. You go anywhere in Des Moines, if there's art on something, it's probably Ron's. It's mental.
Comic books in America tend to want a certain kind of style, you know, like a certain kind of penciling and inking and color treatment. And within that, there's a great deal of variety. But compared to other modes of art making, right, like graffiti or like caricature or sculpture, animation design, right, like sketchbooks, comics is pretty narrow. And Ron can do a lot of those other things. And something like this, where he's sort of stopping at an earlier stage, right? This looks more like he just stopped at the pencil stage. This looks more like this is something in a sketchbook rather than like a finished piece. It reveals a lot of talent and a lot of good choices.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Yeah. So that's
a lot of confidence.
Yeah, big time.
Ron is beautiful.
Ronfidence, we'll call it. he went to the Joe Kubert school, right? So he was trained for this.
He did some work on the Midnight Suns titles, didn't he, Tim?
Yeah, he drew. He drew a year of Ghost Rider after Tex Sierra left, and then he drew, I think, almost all of Morbius. And didn't Morbius run like 24 issues? Right. I'm waiting, right, because this Morbius movie is coming, and Marvel has solicited their first 2 epic collections of all of Morbius's appearances from random issues of Spider-Man and Fear and whatever. Mm-hmm. And I'm assuming that inevitably Volume 3 of sort of the complete Morbius and the epic collections will be that Midnight Suns solo book.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so that's Hit and Run, beautifully drawn by Ron. I've got another Ron piece before we get to my final piece, and this was done again like on the day at Assembly Required, and you can see if you scroll down to the bottom right, his signature's there, nice big scribbly writing. Now this, I basically went up to his table. It was the last con. It was the last Assembly Required we were at before COVID kind of kicked off, and Kate was dressed up as Night Force Outback, and she'd done Tiger Force Outback. Not actually, I don't think she's done regular Outback. That's the easiest one to do. I've had to design 2 T-shirts for her. We actually, for the Night Force one, I got her 2 T-shirts. One was green and one was grey, and she unstitched the sleeves and put the sleeves on it. Genius! It was like the best bit of like real world customizing I've ever seen in my life. You know, it was brilliant. Anyway, so I went up to Ron and I said, "Could you do me a big favor and could I get an Outback, you know, at the end of the weekend?" He's like, "Yeah, sure, no worries." And okay, great, brilliant. Come back again. This wasn't a great. I mean, it was by the end of the day, and he'd done it. And he's like, "Here you go." And I'm like, "Oh my god, that is phenomenal." Again, like the speed that, like, because I know it's a lot of hours, but for me that is really quick. Like that is, you know, this is something. If I was to put my mind at doing something like this, it would take me weeks to really like get everything where I want it to be. So it's just like you said before, Tim, the decision making from an artist, you know, making those decisions on the fly and just, or being like comfortable and confident to just bash it out, and it's like exactly as you wanted it. That's where he is now, and just look at that. Look at
a lot of ink on that page.
Yeah, big time. It's just glorious. So yeah, this was Ron at his very best, in my opinion.
It's kind of a different style than I've ever
background.
seen from him.
Jay, what do you mean when you say that?
Say what, Tim?
It's kind of a different style than you expect from Ron Wagner. What do you mean?
I don't know. It looks almost more like what was the guy's name that did the first 6 issues of Walking Dead?
Tony Moore.
Tony Moore, yeah. Like particularly around his face and just kind of the shape of the arm. I guess to me it doesn't look like Wagner's work in the G.I. Joe series or really like his Ghost Rider stuff. So
yeah,
I mean, if I hadn't seen the signature, I wouldn't be able to tell you that this was a Ron Wagner.
I find it difficult to pin down a style, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I find it difficult to pin down his actual style a lot of the time, especially like when we were saying like he does all of these different things. I think he just likes really just doing whatever kind of strikes him at that moment in a way, you know,
experimenting.
Like, yeah.
I think that Ron's proportions have changed slightly. Sort of his newer G.I. Joe work, of which there is very little, right? Some convention sketches and an issue and a half on the IDW run, compared to his Marvel work and like Nth Man. But I feel like his faces they're like 8% more cartooned. They're like 8% simplified. And in the proportions, what I mean in terms of cartooning, like the eyes are getting just a smidge closer together. They're getting just a tiny bit bigger. Maybe chins are getting just a tiny bit narrower. Because I'm thinking of the cover to Special Missions 13 with Dusty, right? With this very square jaw. And I don't think necessarily that Wagner was looking at the model sheets for the cartoon when he drew that. But that cover to me, like that's probably the platonic ideal of Ron Wagner on G.I. Joe for me. And that echoes, whether coincidentally or not, the Russ Heath clean crispness and proportions. You look at, I feel like sort of calves and ankles in modern Ron Wagner have gotten just a little skinnier. And I don't mean this as a criticism. I just mean like artists' work changes over time. A little bit of this is going to be sort of the filter of the inker, who was inking him on G.I. Joe, like Mike Witherby inked him on Morbius. And that's not
a good point, actually.
It's not something that had happened on G.I. Joe. And then, his work nowadays, he inks it himself. Like he was doing Scooby Apocalypse for DC about 4 years ago, and like that's a weird book because it's like, all right, 60s Hanna-Barbera, but sort of through the lens of like the zombie Archie book and The Walking Dead in like 2016. It's like, who's this for? It's like, well, this is probably like a PG-13 book. It's like for nostalgic 40-year-olds, I guess. And so like, I think he was drawing from established character designs that were put on the book before he signed on, like Jim Lee or like Howard Porter, who'd ever been doing covers. And then, but it's like, well, this doesn't have to look like the old cartoon, and it doesn't have to look like gritty and everything's rotting like The Walking Dead. So it can sort of look like something in the middle. Now I'm just sort of babbling. I think what's also really satisfying about this is the proportions of figure to ground, that there is enough background that we believe he's in this place, and it agrees with him. It's like, oh, it's a jungle. But he's really big.
Yeah.
He's really big in this composition, and also he's leaning forward, and sort of we get a little of everything, right? We get some of his pants, we get his cool gun, we get his shirt, and then like all the sort of palm tree reverse silhouettes in the background, like that's a shorthand, and like those are pretty busy in black and white. If this were in color, I hope those would get knocked back with like a dark blue or a dark green, and you'd have more of an impression. Oh.
There you go.
Who colored this?
Chris just now.
I have.
This was.
I've only ever seen the original.
This was Ryan Lord who did the colors over this.
Okay. Wow.
It's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
I think some of the ink work on this looks like Klaus Janson, like his the left arm there in particular, the hair and around the tricep.
What I really love about that is how the kind of colorist has made it look like the light is cracking through the canopy, and so you've got this like very clearly defined shape of where the light is kind of cutting through the top of the trees, and that's really cool because you almost see it like literally cutting. There's like the gap's there, and it's coming straight down onto his front. That's where it's landing. And I just think, and you almost see where the angle of the sun's is cutting through. It's just, I think that's really cool. And also, like, just over the SU bit on the survival, those little spots where it's obviously there would be like, the shape of the leaves as it's kind of cracking through. I think that's beautiful. I mean, you could argue we might be coming to the edge of the jungle, but to me, it looks like a crack of light has burst through the canopy and is lighting him up there. But I mean, I suppose you could see it in two different ways in a sense, couldn't you?
Yeah. And Chris B over in the comments said, amazing that something this detailed was done at a con. And it is incredible that this was done in a day or an afternoon at a con. The level of detail that you're seeing in this piece, those little intricate, elements in terms of adding in the background, the weapon that he's got in his hand is just absolutely, model sheet perfect, and just the way that he's done, like, the details of it on his arms, the fine lines that he's added on into the camo in the folds of his camo. It's pretty spectacular that he was able to do this in a convention environment rather than it's at home in a studio where. And
I was over his shoulder going, hurry up, get it done, hurry up. No, I'm kidding. But it's just superb. I love the color.
Like,
I think that's the first time I've seen the color work on that, to be honest. That's gorgeous.
Okay, very good. Yeah, if you search for Ron Wagner Outback, just on an image search,
you'll see him in Australia on a hike. Cool. Okay, so we've got to my last piece. Now this is the one that's very close to my heart. Now this is actually a print that was done for Rollout Roll Call. by Bob Breakin, who is effectively the godfather of Palatoy. There he is, the one on the right. Not the little lad in the background in the bubble, not him. Yeah, that's me and Bob at the May the Toys Be With You, which was a museum exhibition. That's the word. An exhibition in Leicester for like the old Palatoy Star Wars toy line, which Bob said, "Do you want to go down and hang out?" And I was like, "Yes." Bob and I've kind of become friends over the years doing, the podcast and everything, the Action Force podcast. Bob was actually synonymous, and if you don't know, I don't know how you're not aware of this yet, but he was synonymous in Action Man, which lent a lot of new ideas that Bob actually helped design, came up with for the 12-inch action G.I. Joe figures as well. So he was responsible for the gripping hand. That's Bob's hand on all of those original G.I. Joe and Action Man figures. He modeled it on his own left hand, I believe. So like he literally modeled it looking at his own hand. The guy's amazing. He did, and this is just one of those things where, again, if you're not familiar, Bob designed the Robo Skull. He designed the Red Shadows. He designed a lot of the Action Force figures, the SAS, the Q-Force, Z-Force, etc., etc. And in terms of Skeletron, the reason that was quite an important one for me and Kate and for Bob is that Skeletron was originally supposed to be the Robo Skull pilot. And Bob, when he pitched the idea to the guys at Palatoy, he came in with this model that he'd done, and there's an image of it online. I should have sent that to you. Sorry about that, Mark. But it's a really interesting image of this really rough kind of mocked up Robo Skull model with Skeletron next to it. And he went into the meeting, it's on the desk, and he's like, okay, this little character guy is Robo Skull, and this is the little vehicle he flies. And they went, no, Bob, that's not what we're going to do. The vehicle is going to be called Robo Skull, and we want a different pilot, and if we're going to use that other Skeletron for a different figure, probably a mail away. So that's what happened. Skeletron became a mail away. Bob had to go away and redesign Red Wolf, which I've got a print of that as well. That he does these beautiful painting kind of like sketches where he does these. This is how he presents the figure, and he did it with Skeletron. He's done it with Red Wolf. He's done more of those. They're kind of floating around out there. I think Analog Toys Tony Roberts has done some great videos about these kind of things, and he's flashed up the Red Wolf one in the past. But yeah, this one is great. And what I love about these is that he brings the toy effectively to life in the sketch, and also it explains what all of the little things are with these little kind of like, scribbled writings and tech specs. And he's even thrown the Baron in the bottom corner and with a speech bubble, like giving some of the exposition as to the story behind Skeletron. The Skeletron is my latest creation from the Iron Blood Laboratories, programmed to destroy Action Force wherever it confronts them, etc., etc. With a will of its own, it even refuses to obey my orders sometimes. It's like a bit of humor in there from Bob as well. But like this, servo operated, as it effort, was it manipulators?
Multipliers.
Just incredible things like that. Like things that, you look at the figure and you go, it's just a bit of plastic stuck on there.
Yeah.
And he's like, giving it life and everything. And I just think they're gorgeous, adorable. Bob does these amazing, they're like rough vehicle sketches for the Robo Skull as well, and it's just incredible. He actually there's actually again a big sketch document with a ton of different ideas and designs of what the Robo Skull was going to look like. It had tank treads, some of them were on legs, like a walker, and all these different ideas that he had that he just threw onto the page because effectively marketing said we want a vehicle that embodies the Red Shadows logo. So he looked at the logo and he went, okay, a flying skull with wings on it. Done. That's the kind of mind he has.
So Chris, there's a date on the bottom right corner.
Yeah, 83. Yeah.
So is this artwork all old and made into a modern print? Is this a new drawing to look like artwork from then and sort of retro signed?
basically, it's the original as a print with a few things added to make it a roll-out roll call exclusive print in the top right-hand corner. And I believe the Skeletron text was all the way across the top in the original one. It doesn't stop at that point, I don't think. And the but effectively everything else is what it was. And he's signed obviously the actual print itself to Chris, etc. But
he didn't see into the future. Yes,
yeah,
who would want this?
Back in 1983, he was like, "Is that guy Chris I'm going to meet?" Because obviously him and Marty McFly were really close, and so. So
this is wait. Go back to the photo. Are you disappearing from the photo?
That's me in the bottom right-hand corner.
This is kind of the Action Force equivalent of the internal presentation art that would have been happening over in Hasbro from Ron Rudat and co.
Yes, 100%. That's exactly what this is. But I just absolutely love it, and it means, even though it's a print, it's not the original. I'm not going to pester Bob for the original of these things at all. Obviously it means a lot because we're really close now and we're good friends. And I just love his style, and I think he's so just brilliant. And so big shout out to Bob Breakin, and I love that so much. That print is great.
Brilliant. What a great story behind it as well. And I think that was the end of everything that you were going to show us, Chris. So
end of the world. There's Bob.
All the way back to the beginning. There we go. That's what we've been looking at today.
I love that picture. It's amazing.
So thank you, Chris, then for sharing all of that. That's amazing, and hopefully you'll be able to get to the UK and dig out some of the rest of it from storage from that giant warehouse where they keep the Ark of the Covenant and everything else.
And the rest of my toy collection, it's disgusting. Yeah, I'll send you a video to show next time. It's hilarious. Walking around all these big plastic storage containers that are about 20 feet high, just stacked and stacked and stacked. It's bonkers. Honestly, it makes me feel a bit sick when I go in there sometimes. I'm like, I really should either burn this or no. But big fan of G.I. Joe and multiple other. I've got other stuff too in terms of artwork. I'm a big Turtles fan, and I've got some really interesting art from when they get merchandise, that stuff gets merchandised out in and licensed out in different countries. When it comes to when TMNT came to the UK and was Hero Turtles, I've got loads of weird art that they did commissioned from UK artists or whatever for merchandise. And that's things like, coloring books and T-shirts and stuff like that. And some of it's really cute, and storybooks and stuff. And so if I can dig some of that out, I will, whenever I can get back to the UK to do that, I'll do that.
Cool. Let's let everybody know where they can find us. So let's see who's up the top here. It's Jay. So Jay, where can people find you?
Facebook, Jay Cordray, or Break Room Sketches.
Yeah, check it out. Did some very good Zorana sketches this week. Most impressive. Most impressive.
Yeah, those were a lot of fun. I love motorcycles, so even if I don't draw them very well, it's fun to do them. And biker chicks. How can you go wrong?
Zorana, I didn't know it was you. Sorry, that's from the movie.
I'm gonna be having a go at coloring one of those myself at some point this week.
Well, you saw what my comment was, didn't you? I said you color it, and then I'll color it after you, and then we'll kind of compare.
You tell me what I did wrong.
See how,
It's one of those things where you draw a bit on the paper and then fold it up, and then I'll draw the middle bit and then fold it up, and then you do the top, and then see what it turns out like. I'll color the top bit and fold it, and then you color the bottom bit and see what we come up with. Actually, that would be a lot of fun. Can we do that?
Chris added boobs again.
Sure.
Jay, can you send me a big photo or scan of the black and white, and I'll color it too?
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, I just think it'd be interesting to see how people interpret it, because Skinny Joe Fan did one, and it was great. I understand what what the goal was to make it look like one of the old toys, but when I got it, it was not at all how I had pictured it. You know, because I was thinking more metallic and silver surfaces and a lighter bike and everything. But it's awesome. Anytime somebody jumps on and says, "Hey man, can I take a shot of that?" I say, "Yeah, absolutely. I love to see what other people do." Definitely.
I like what he did with the hair color too, like that kind of that almost like 2 or 3 tone going on. The way, because obviously she has like 2 clearly defined different color pieces of hair in the new figure, and then like the old one, it's just pink, isn't it? I think.
Yeah.
So it's really
like
cool.
A weird kind of, I don't know.
Yeah, it's an odd haircut. Yeah,
kind of trimmed out of 80s hair. I don't know what you'd call that.
But yeah, I really like that. Was really cool, actually. Yeah, love that.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And Tim, where can people find you? There's a hint down the bottom.
A realamericanbook.com.
Excellent. Yeah, worth checking it out if you have not yet visited. Chris, you are ubiquitous.
Yeah, you can find me at realamericanbook.com. I'm just kidding. You can't find me there. Actually, you can find me on one of the blog posts when you drew me for one of the Joe Con recaps, I believe. Love that. That's always one of my favorite things that you did. Also, I always steal it. Yeah, obviously. No, actually, one of the things I really liked, Tim, was when you did that draw. I know this. I'm gone on a tangent here. Apologies. But
let's talk about me.
Let's talk about you. When you drew that really cool version of, that it was like the Tomahawk before, like the presentation art for that first Tomahawk, which is like really weird design and odd. And it was at HasCon, and you drew it from memory as like a sketch. I had to actually use that sketch to describe it on another show I did ages ago, and said, Tim did this. This is the closest I could find of what it actually looks like.
We weren't allowed to take photos inside Hasbro.
Yeah, exactly. That was a fun, mate. How much fun was that little tour we did with all the art like laid out in the hallways? Oh my God, I'll never forget that. We were the legends as well. We were with like Guy Cassaday and Ron and on all those guys that worked, Ron Rudat, all the guys that worked on it pretty much.
That's awesome.
Kurt Groen, and we were just walking around, David Coriolis, Kunitz, all of those guys. It was nuts. Anyway, that was a lot of fun. I miss those days. And yeah, you can find me at the Full Force podcast pretty much everywhere, at the Full Force on Twitter, on Facebook, Podbean, iTunes, Stitcher, and YouTube, of course. Check us out. We do news bursts, comic bursts. Thanks, Phoebe. Dog bursts. We've got a Patreon as well, so check us out on there if you want to support us. And you get loads of cool stuff like intel and sit reps and stuff that you don't get elsewhere, and you get it early. So yeah, there you go. So that's me done. And the weeklies, Full Force weeklies.
Yeah,
I asked my girlfriend
another one
for
dropped today
this morning, and she was like, "What are you talking about?" I've been talking G.I. Joe too long to people.
And John, I have presumed that
John Thurman. JohnThurman.com for all things John Thurman. If you follow me on Twitter, every November, every day of the month, I post a Jovember original art piece.
Cool.
Something out of my collection. I've been doing that for several years. I think, Mark, that's maybe how we initially connected way back when. But yeah, I'm around.
Yeah. Very good. And you're also one of the members of Star Joe's, which is that kind of on hiatus, or just movie and not posting quite so frequently at the moment?
We haven't recorded in a bit. Ryan, who started the show 10 plus years ago, had a Kickstarter project, successfully launched his own all ages comic, and has been focused on that, understandably so. But you guys, everybody else has picked up the slack in the meantime. Great content being out there, but yeah, we're still around. Just haven't been doing much with that show lately.
Very good. And you can find me and the show at talkingjoe.co.uk, which has links to everything Talking Joe, including our newly launched Patreon. So thank you for our Patreon subscribers, which is Jay and Richard,
I thought you were going to say,
aka Carol.
I thought you were going to say Patreon subscriber for a second then. I was
like, it was for a while.
Gentlemen, got it pretty bad yesterday. I said, it's the cost of a cup of coffee. Come on.
Let's project confidence.
You're getting hours of listening to your brother, and she thought, "Yeah, I can get that for free."
The hundreds and thousands of Patreon supporters who have signed up for our content.
Yeah,
until you make it.
I just saw that Diana's chucked in some comments there as well. Thanks for watching. Let's talk about your tour.
Diana was not allowed to take photos at Hasbro and smartly took some anyway.
Yeah, Daryl took a cracking picture of her with the Tiger Force Ducat, I think it was. Should I say that, Diana? I've probably given the game away now. We're all going to be arrested. SWAT teaming going to burst through the windows. The Hasbro SWAT team.
Also,
they'll get you first. You're close because you're closest.
A couple years earlier, on a different Hasbro tour, photography was allowed. So,
oh well.
Who always on the tour with you guys?
Oh, it was Daryl kind of led it. Daryl DePriest, and it was all of the legends. It was Kurt Groen. It was Guy Cassaday, Ron Rudat. Dave Kunitz was there. Dan Klingensmith Jr. because he was running the kind of show. Dave from Flag Points, Tim, myself, Kate. There was a few other people there. Was James Cav there? I think. I can't remember. There was a few people there. There was a lot of it was probably about 20 on the bus, I think.
Yeah.
Chris, I'm going to correct you. Though I appreciate you changing your memory to include me, I went on the first tour on Friday.
You went on a different tour, didn't you?
I was not on your tour with those interesting people.
I remember. I spoke to you afterwards, didn't I? And yeah, I remember now. Sorry, yeah.
I was on the tour with 8 very nice people who I hadn't known before and haven't connected with since. But in my mind, I've also shifted. I think I sort of went on your tour also anyway.
I think
the legends were so friendly, and the nostalgia was great, right? Dan was so magnanimous.
Like
Daryl had all these
movie theater after your movie's over.
Daryl had these anecdotes, right? Diana not only took photos, she just took some of the paintings.
Yeah, she just took them. You were there in spirit for me.
Thanks.
So, and freedom. You were there in spirit and freedom.
Thanks. I was wearing the Black Devil's Due spirit costume, which is why you couldn't see me. I was just blending into some shadows.
I thought you were Snake Eyes. Okay.
I was blonde once.
We'll catch you down the road.
Because we've been talking Joe.
And we're all out of Joes.
Full force.
Chris.
Thank you for...